The air was thick with unspoken words as Samantha stood in the living room, the scent of pine and cinnamon swirling around her like a cruel reminder of the holiday cheer that felt so distant. Her heart raced, a mix of hope and dread, as she watched her sister's joy unfold. Why did it feel like she was invisible in her own family? The laughter echoed, but all Samantha could hear was the silence of her self-worth, buried beneath layers of expectation and disappointment. Was this truly all she would ever be? A shadow, forever overlooked? Last Christmas changed everything. Before that, I was just Samantha Wilson, a 32-year-old woman who yearned for recognition. I had worked tirelessly, dreaming that my family would finally see my efforts. Instead, I returned apartment to watch my younger sister, Chloe, unwrap keys to a brand new Tesla. I opened my own small box, revealing a ceramic savings jar and a single gift card. My mother smiled warmly, saying, "That's our contribution to your future apartment, sweetie." My heart sank. That night I packed my suitcase. I didn't say goodbye. I couldn't. As I drove away, the scent of rain hung in the air, each drop echoing my feelings of rejection. My phone buzzed with a message, but I ignored it. That night, something shifted within me. I was tired of being the responsible one, the one who always sat at the kiddie table. Growing up, it felt like a prison of inadequacy. From the outside, our suburban Philadelphia apartment looked perfect, adorned with seasonal wreaths and trimmed hedges. My parents, Michael and Margaret, now in their 50s, carefully masked our family dynamics from the world. But inside, I felt invisible. When I was 7, everything changed. Chloe was born, and it seemed all the attention shifted to her like a spotlight. On my 10th birthday, my parents forgot to buy a cake. They were preoccupied with Chloe's nursery furniture. When I tearfully mentioned it at dinner, my mother hastily stuck a candle in a dinner roll and declared it a celebration. "Samantha, you're old enough to understand that your sister needs more attention," my father would say. "Be the responsible one." And responsible I became. By the time I was 12, I was preparing meals, my childhood fading into the background. By 14, I was babysitting while my parents cheered for Chloe at her dance recitals. The weight of expectation grew heavier with each passing year, until I felt lost in a world that spun around me. This Christmas was my breaking point. It was time to reclaim my narrative. The question lingered. Was it too late to find my voice? As I drove into the night, I wondered what my future held. Could I finally step out of the shadows and into the light? The scent of pine from the Christmas tree filled the air, mingling with the warm aroma of cinnamon wafting from the kitchen. As Samantha meticulously wrapped her carefully chosen gifts, a forgotten letter slipped from the stack, fluttering to the floor. It was yellowed and frayed, a relic of the past that whispered secrets long buried. What sacrifices had her parents made that had never been acknowledged? In that moment, Samantha felt the weight of her family's unspoken history pressing down on her. Was her struggle for recognition merely about her achievements, or was it something deeper? Each family gathering had been a reminder of her overlooked existence. Questions about her career and love life felt like a constant echo, as if her professional efforts were just a placeholder for marriage. Meanwhile, her sister Chloe, with average grades but a polished portfolio, basked in the spotlight. Their parents had even sent her to Europe for 3 months, a graduation gift that felt like a slap in the face. Last October, after 5 years of hard work, Samantha finally received a promotion to senior designer. She called her parents, hoping this time would be different. "That's nice, honey," her mother replied, distracted. "Did I tell you Chloe is dating a doctor now?" The familiar disappointment stung, but Samantha clung to hope. Christmas was approaching, and she poured her heart into thoughtful gifts, stretching her budget to show her love. As she drove apartment, she imagined this visit might finally be different. Maybe her promotion would finally matter. Maybe the expensive wallet for Dad and the cashmere scarf for Mom would bridge the gap she had felt her entire life. But deep down, she knew she was still seeking their approval at 32 years old. Arriving at her childhood apartment on December 24th, she pulled into the driveway behind her father's SUV. The house looked just as it always had during the holidays, but would this year be any different? Would the warmth of the season finally thaw the icy distance between them? As she stepped inside, the familiar sights and sounds enveloped her, but the letter lay heavy in her mind. What truths would it reveal, and how would it change everything she thought she knew about her family? Multicolored lights outlining the roof, inflatable snowman bobbing in the front yard, and wreath with red velvet bow centered perfectly on the door. The familiarity should have been comforting, but instead, my stomach tightened with the anxiety that always accompanied family visits. My mother opened the door before I could knock, wearing her traditional Christmas apron over a red sweater. "Samantha, you made it!" she exclaimed, giving me a quick hug that smelled of cinnamon and vanilla. "Come in. Come in. Your father is watching the game, and Chloe will be here soon with Kyle." I followed her inside, noting how the decorations were exactly the same as they had been throughout my childhood. The same artificial tree in the corner, the same nativity scene on the mantel, the same stockings hanging in birth order. "Michael, Margaret, Samantha, Chloe, I have got your room ready," Mom said, leading me upstairs. We had to move some storage boxes in there, but I cleared a path to the bed. My childhood bedroom was now half guest room, half storage unit. Cardboard boxes labeled tax documents and holiday decorations lined one wall. The twin bed had a new comforter I had never seen before, and the desk where I had studied for countless exams was now covered with my mother's sewing projects. "It is just for sleeping, right?" Mom said, noticing my expression. "Chloe's room is exactly as she left it. Of course, she stays over so much more often than you do." I nodded, placing my overnight bag on the bed. "This is fine, Mom. Thanks." "Great. Now come help me with dinner preparations. The sweet potatoes need peeling." Downstairs in the kitchen, I fell into the familiar role of assistant while my mother directed the cooking operation. I had been peeling potatoes for 15 minutes when the front door burst open and Chloe's voice filled the house. "We are here," she called out. Kyle brought wine. "You know, I am focusing on my career right now," I replied, the rehearsed answer coming automatically. "Career is wonderful, but family is everything," she said, patting my arm. "Look at your sister and that doctor boyfriend. She has got the right idea." The conversation continued in this vein throughout dinner preparations. No one asked about my promotion or my work. Instead, I fielded questions about dating prospects and gentle suggestions about freezing eggs just in case. My mother enlisted my help setting the table with the family china delicate floral-patterned plates that had belonged to my grandmother. As I carefully arranged each place setting, I remembered the time I had accidentally broken one of these plates when I was 11. My father had grounded me for 2 weeks, calling me careless and irresponsible. 3 years later, Chloe had thrown a tantrum and swept an entire place setting onto the floor. My parents had simply cleaned it up, assuring her it was just an accident and plates can be replaced. The memory must have shown on my face because my mother paused while placing silverware. "Is something wrong?" "No," I said quickly, "just being careful with the china." "Good. These plates are irreplaceable family heirlooms except when Chloe broke them." Apparently, Christmas Eve dinner was a production of perfectly executed traditions. The turkey was golden brown, the sides abundant, and the conversation focused primarily on Chloe's artistic endeavors and Kyle's medical school experiences. When I mentioned a challenging project I had recently completed for a sustainable office building, my father changed the subject to ask Kyle about his residency plans. After dinner came the annual viewing of It Is a Wonderful Life. As always, the seating arrangements left me on the floor while Chloe curled comfortably on the couch between our parents. Kyle got the recliner, being the honored guest. I leaned against the coffee table, feeling the familiar ache in my lower back as the movie progressed. George Bailey's revelation about the value of his life hit differently this year. As I watched the character realize how much he mattered to others, I wondered if anyone would notice if I disappeared. Would my absence leave any hole in this family picture? As the movie ended and people began preparing for bed, I helped clean up while Chloe showed Kyle the childhood photo albums. Albums that featured her prominently on every page with me, visible mainly in group shots, often partially cropped out. I went to bed that night in my storage room bedroom, surrounded by boxes of items deemed more worthy of space than my childhood memories. Tomorrow was Christmas Day. One last chance for things to be different. One last opportunity for my family to see me. Sleep came fitfully interrupted by dreams of empty stockings and car keys just beyond my reach. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold sunlight reflecting off fresh snow that had fallen overnight. I woke early as I always did and headed downstairs to start breakfast. This was an unspoken expectation. Samantha handles breakfast while everyone else sleeps in. I mixed pancake batter, fried bacon, and brewed coffee, setting everything out buffet style on the kitchen counter. The smell of food gradually lured everyone downstairs. Chloe appeared last, yawning dramatically, her hair somehow perfectly tasseled despite just waking up. Kyle followed close behind, his arm around her waist. "Oh my God, I am starving," Chloe announced, piling her plate high. "Samantha, you should have woken me earlier. You know how I get when I am hungry." I did know. The entire family knew. Chloe's hunger was always an emergency requiring immediate attention, while I had learned to ignore my own needs entirely. After breakfast, we gathered in the living room around the Christmas tree. The gift exchange kicked off as it always did, youngest to oldest. But this year, with Kyle around, he snagged the first turn, unwrapping each present with genuine delight. He beamed at the leather card holder I picked out for him like I had just handed him the keys to the kingdom. Then came Chloe's turn. She barreled through her gifts, tearing wrapping paper like a kid at Christmas, and she was 25. When she unwrapped the concert tickets I'd saved half my paycheck for, she glanced at them, tossed a quick thanks my way, and dove into the next package. The disappointment stung. Last year, I had given her a $10 candle, and her reaction was the same. Did anyone see me? Finally, it was my time. I opened my gifts like an accountant, grateful for their existence but hollow inside. A generic scarf from Aunt Linda, bath products from my cousin, and a gift card from my parents. Impersonal gifts that felt like they were pulled from a catalog, nothing reflecting my recent promotion, the pride I wanted to share. But my dad was busy checking his watch. The silent signals exchanged with my mom felt like whispers of a joke I wasn't in on. When the last present was opened, my dad stood up, clearing his throat. "We have one special surprise this year," he announced, his smile radiant. "Chloe, your mother and I are so proud of you and your artistic talents. We wanted to show our support." As he handed her a small gold-wrapped box, I held my breath. Inside lay a car key adorned with the Tesla logo. Chloe squealed, jumping up and down. "No way! Are you serious?" My family erupted with excitement, and as they rushed to the front door, my heart sank deeper. The fresh scent of snow outside mingled with the bitterness in my chest. We stepped out into the cold, where a brand-new white Tesla A4 waited, its shiny surface glistening under the morning sun, an enormous red bow perched on top. But as I stared at it, an unsettling thought gripped me. Was my absence truly that forgettable? Would I always remain the afterthought in this family photo? The question lingered in the air, thick as the winter chill. And just as I opened my mouth to voice my feelings, Kyle cut in, with an unreadable expression. Did he notice? What was lurking beneath the surface? And would I ever rise from the shadow? Based on the model and features visible through the window, I estimated it cost at least $35,000 more than I made in an entire year. "You deserve this, sweetheart," my mother said, hugging Chloe as she bounced excitedly around the vehicle. "You need reliable transportation for your new gallery internship. The internship that paid nothing but prestige. The internship our parents had secured through connections. the internship Chloe had been complaining about because it required getting up too early. Kyle took photos of Chloe posing with her new car while my parents beamed proudly. I stood on the porch, arms wrapped around myself against the cold, feeling invisible once again. When we returned inside, thawing our fingers by the fireplace, my mother suddenly exclaimed, "Oh, we almost forgot. Samantha, we have something special for you too." For a brief, irrational moment, hope fluttered in my chest. Perhaps they had been saving my gift for last as well. Perhaps they had recognized my hard work after all. My mother handed me a small box wrapped in leftover birthday paper. It weighed almost nothing. I unwrapped it carefully, lifting the lid to reveal a small pink ceramic piggy bank. Beside it lay a single, crisp $1 bill. I stared at it, waiting for the explanation, the punchline. Anything that would make sense of this gift compared to a luxury vehicle. "That is our contribution to your future apartment," my mother said, smiling warmly, as though she had given me something precious. "You were just saying last visit how you wanted to buy a house someday." Well, every journey begins with a single step. The room felt awkwardly silent. Even Aunt Linda, who typically filled uncomfortable pauses with chatter, seemed at a loss for words. "Wow, I finally managed. Thanks." "You are welcome, sweetie," my mother continued, oblivious to my shock. "At your age, it is important to start thinking about these things. Chloe is younger, so she has more time, but you really should be establishing roots soon." Chloe examined her manicure, then offered her own wisdom. "You really should move out of that tiny apartment, Samantha. It is kind of sad for someone your age. My apartment. My hard-earned, independently maintained apartment that no one had ever visited because it was too far to drive. The apartment I paid for entirely on my own while Chloe had her rent subsidized by our parents." "I need some fresh air," I said, standing abruptly. No one tried to stop me as I walked out the back door into the yard. Snow crunched beneath my boots as I made my way to the old maple tree where my childhood swing still hung. I sat down, the cold chains biting through my gloves, and finally allowed the tears to fall. 32 years of trying to earn love that should have been freely given. 32 years of watching Chloe receive everything I had ever wanted. 32 years of telling myself next time would be different. The piggy bank and a single dollar weren't just disappointing gifts. They were a message clear as the winter sky above me. You are on your own. You always have been. As the cold seeped through my jeans and the tears froze on my cheeks, something inside me finally broke. But in that breaking came clarity. This would never change. The dynamic was too entrenched, too comfortable for everyone involved. Everyone except me. If I wanted something different, I would have to create it myself. I remained on the swing until my fingers grew numb and my tears subsided. The decision crystallized slowly. Then, all at once, I could not return to that house and continue pretending. Something had to change. And since my family would not, I must. Walking back inside, I passed through the kitchen where dirty breakfast dishes still sat in the sink dishes. No one but me would think to wash. Upstairs, I could hear Chloe chattering excitedly on the phone, presumably telling friends about her new car. From the living room, the sounds of a football game filled the air, mixed with my father's laughter, oblivious to my absence. No one cared enough to check if I was okay. I slipped upstairs to my room, a storage space masquerading as a bedroom, and quietly shut the door. Sitting on my unmade bed, I dialed my best friend Samantha. "Merry Christmas," she chirped, jarring me back to reality. "How's the family circus this year, Sam?" I asked, my voice cracking. "It happened again," I whispered under the weight of betrayal. I recounted the cruel comparison of the Tesla gifted to my sister and the meager piggy bank I received. "You've got to be kidding me!" Samantha's indignation pierced through my disappointment. "A piggy bank while Chloe gets a freaking Tesla? That's just messed up, Samantha." "I know," I sighed, feeling the burden of tears welling up. "I can't do this anymore." "Then don't," she replied, her voice steady. "My guest room is yours, for as long as you need. You can easily transfer to the Seattle office. It's just 3 hours away from Portland." Her words landed like a revelation. I could actually leave. Forever. I could escape the emotional prison I had locked myself in for years. But then the thought of Christmas crept in. Wasn't I supposed to uphold some version of family harmony? "Christmas will happen with or without you," Samantha said, her tone soft yet firm. "The real question is, do you want to spend another second trapped in this cycle?" As I hung up, a cold wave of realization washed over me. The laughter from downstairs morphed into a haunting echo. My family's indifference pressed on my chest like a weight I could no longer bear. The walls of my room, once a retreat, felt like a cage. This wasn't just about recognition. It was about breaking free from suffocating expectations. I realized I had spent 32 years striving for love that should have come naturally. Each tear that fell on my cold cheeks held a fragment of hope, mingling with the scent of rain through the window. I couldn't keep pretending that this was enough. No more. The decision crystallized in. I couldn't return to that house and keep pretending. Something had to change, and if my family wouldn't change, then I had to. As I walked back inside, I passed the kitchen filled with dirty dishes that I would be the only one to wash. Up the stairs, I could hear Chloe laughing, telling friends about her new car, while I planned my escape. No longer would I let myself be overlooked. This was only the beginning. I opened my suitcase, heart racing, as I began to pack. Not just the few things I had brought for the holiday, but pieces of my past. My high school graduation tassel, a photo album filled with laughter, and a small wooden box my grandfather crafted just for me. Each item held memories, but as I sorted through the drawers, I stumbled upon old journals. Flipping through them, I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. Page after page revealed a painful truth: my parents' favoritism. I had poured my heart out, expressing confusion and hurt, promising to try harder, to be better, to earn the love they gave Chloe so freely. The thought of confronting my family crossed my mind, laying bare these years of pain, begging for acknowledgement. But what would it change? More denials? More gaslighting? I could already hear their dismissive tones. No, it was time to channel that energy into something new. I grabbed a sheet of stationery from the desk and began to write. I am returning to Seattle today. The contrast between Chloe's gift and mine made things clear. I need space to process our family dynamic and what role, if any, I want it to play in my future. Please do not contact me for a while, Samantha. No apologies, no explanations that would only be twisted. Just the truth and a boundary. The first real boundary I had ever set with my family. I folded the note, placing it on my neatly made bed. As I gathered my suitcase and the small box of mementos, I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. I quietly made my way downstairs. The family was gathered in the living room, engrossed in a Christmas movie marathon. No one looked up as I passed the doorway. In the kitchen, I placed the note prominently on the counter, where someone would eventually find it. But just as I turned to leave, a sudden noise echoed from the hallway, a voice familiar yet distant, somehow both a comfort and a threat. Every heartbeat drummed in my ears. Had someone seen me? Would they confront me now, as I prepared to leave behind a past that felt more like a ghost than apartment? Questions thickened the atmosphere. Could I really walk away, or was it time to face the truth once and for all? I took one last look at the familiar space, where the fridge was adorned with Chloe's childhood artwork, and that height chart on the wall lost track of me after age 10. All those numbers, all those memories, but only Chloe's continued, after she left for college. On the bulletin board hung her internship acceptance letter, while all I had was the silence of my recent promotion. This place had always overlooked me. Maybe it always would. As I packed the last of my things into my 7-year-old Honda, I paused in the driveway, staring at the house draped in twinkling lights. Smoke lazily billowed from the chimney. It was a perfect holiday card image, hiding years of wounds that nobody dared to see. Beside my car gleamed Chloe's brand-new Tesla, the giant red bow still proud on the roof. I retrieved a ceramic savings jar from my pocket and set it carefully on my dashboard. It was a reminder, no looking back. Snow began to fall again, soft flakes drifting in the dusky light, muffling the world around me. From the living room window, my family appeared as silhouettes, engrossed in their movie, blissfully unaware of their oldest daughter beginning to drive away. Grief mingled with liberation as tears blurred my vision. This was it. For the first time in 32 years, I was choosing myself. I turned onto the main road, and with every mile I felt the weight of years lift, a weight that felt simultaneously freeing and heavy. 3 blocks down, I pulled over and plugged Samantha's address into my GPS. 3 hours to Seattle. 3 hours to a fresh start. As I merged onto the highway, heading north through the snow, I mustered the courage to say aloud what was long overdue. They do not love me the way I need to be loved, and that is not my fault. Just as I began to appreciate this newfound resolve, a sudden movement caught my eye. My mother burst outside, her frantic form silhouetted against the doorframe. In her hands, a crumpled piece of paper flapped wildly, as if it carried the weight of our unspoken tensions. "Samantha, wait!" Her voice sliced through the quiet air, laced with urgency. My heart raced as the past collided with the present. What now? I could feel years of unresolved feelings boiling within me. Did she finally see me? She turned the paper, and everything inside me twisted when I recognized it. My promotion letter, the one I had poured my hopes into for acknowledgement. Was this the moment that could change everything, or would it just lead to another disappointment? The truth hung thick, a loaded promise masked by hesitation. In a heartbeat, the world shrank to just the two of us. The raindrops began to fall, their scent mingling with the snow. Would this twist in our story finally break through the silent barriers we had built? Or was it just another fleeting chance at recognition, fading with the winter light? The words hung in the car like an incantation, breaking the chains I'd carried for decades. I found a station playing anything but Christmas music and turned my car toward the unknown. As I drove north, the snow began to fall harder, swirling around me like an ominous shroud. I slowed down, navigating this narrow corridor of headlights and taillights where the world felt both magical and suffocating. Suddenly, my phone buzzed against the cup holder, snapping me back to reality. I glanced down, hoping it was a message from Samantha, checking in on my journey. Instead, my mother's name lit up the screen, and my heart sank. "Do not forget to pay the utility bills due on the 28th. What? No. Are you safe? Or, we miss you. Just a reminder about bills. Bills for the apartment I'd always paid, even when my feelings went ignored. This wasn't love. It was a checklist of responsibilities, a reminder of my worth in their eyes. My hands trembled on the wheel as I stared at the message, disbelief crashing over me. 10 minutes later, another buzz. My father. "Internet payment processes tomorrow. Make sure there's enough in your account." Again, no mention of me, just a financial reminder, a line in their story. Why was I the only one bearing the weight? They had always treated my sister Chloe like glass, while I was the sturdy one, the dependable one. I could feel the anger bubbling inside me, the injustice of it all. Then came the ringing. My mother again. I let it go to voicemail. "Samantha, where did you go? We're about to have dessert, and your aunt is asking for you. This is very inconsiderate timing." Inconsiderate. As if my meltdown was just another item on a family itinerary, a spontaneous, inconvenient moment. The suffocation intensified. I ignored subsequent calls, each chime punctuating my resolve to break free. What if this time I chose me? What if I stepped into the future uncaged by their expectations? I could smell the rain mixing with the snow, a fresh scent filled with possibility. It was a promise of new beginnings, a chance at a life unshackled from the shadows of my past. But would they ever understand? Would this break of silence finally shatter the barriers that had imprisoned me? Or would I remain the dutiful daughter, a faded echo of who I truly was? The voicemails piled up, each one a dagger to my heart. "Your note is very dramatic," my mother's voice echoed in my mind. "I don't understand why you'd leave on Christmas over a simple gift. The ceramic savings jar was cute. Not everything has to be expensive to be meaningful." Then came my father, his tone flat and cold. "Samantha, your mother is upset now. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is childish. Call us back immediately." Finally, there was Chloe, my sister, the golden child. "Way to ruin Christmas, Samantha. Mom and Dad did nothing wrong. You're just jealous of my car, which is super selfish of you. They've always given you everything you needed." Each message twisted the knife deeper. Even now, they couldn't see me or my pain. Even now, they dismissed my feelings, defending their actions. It was always about how my reaction affected them, never about how their actions had shaped me for decades. I pulled off at the next exit, the storm of snow and emotions swirling inside me. A roadside diner glowed warmly against the winter darkness. Gloria's all-day breakfast flickering in neon. I parked and stepped inside, seeking warmth and a moment of refuge. The diner was nearly empty on Christmas evening. An elderly waitress with silver hair and kind eyes approached my booth. "Merry Christmas, honey. Traveling in this weather?" She placed a menu before me and filled a mug with coffee without asking. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. She studied my face for a moment, then said gently, "Looks like you could use more than coffee. The kitchen is still open if you need something warm." "Thank you," I managed, my voice cracking slightly. "Just the coffee for now." She nodded and moved away, giving me space. I wrapped my cold hands around the mug, staring into the dark liquid as if it might contain answers. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my mother. "Your behavior is very hurtful to your father and me after everything we have done for you." The weight of her words pressed down on me, suffocating. Would they ever understand? Would this break of silence finally shatter the barriers that had imprisoned me? Or would I remain the dutiful daughter, a faded echo of who I truly was? As I sat there, the storm outside raged on, both in the world and within me. What if this was the moment everything changed? What if I finally stood up for myself? But could I bear the fallout? Everything they had done for me, the bare minimum parenting while lavishing Chloe with advantages, the constant message that I was not quite enough, not quite worthy of the same love and support, the expectation that I would be eternally grateful for crumbs while Chloe feasted. Something inside me broke open, and I began to cry, quiet, shuddering sobs that I tried to muffle with my napkin. The waitress returned, sliding into the booth across from me without invitation. She pushed a plate with a slice of pie toward me. "On the house," she said. "I do not know what you are going through, but nobody should cry alone on Christmas." Her simple kindness undid me completely. I cried harder. Decades of suppressed hurt flowing out in a diner booth before a stranger showing more concern than my family ever had. "I left my family today," I finally said, wiping my eyes. "For good, I think." The waitress, Gloria, according to her name tag, nodded. "I walked away from my family when I was 27. Hardest and best thing I ever did." "Does it get easier?" I asked. "The guilt fades," she said. "The relief grows. Eventually, you build something better." We talked as I ate the pineapple with a perfect crust. Gloria shared her own story of family dysfunction and the life she had created afterward. She was 72 now, had owned this diner for 30 years, and had formed a chosen family of friends who celebrated holidays together. "Blood makes you related," she told me. "Love and respect make you family." Some people are lucky enough to have both in the same people. The rest of us have to find our real family as we go. By the time I finished my pie and second cup of coffee, the snow had slowed to gentle flurries. Gloria insisted I take a piece of pie to go and made me promise to call someone when I reached my destination safely. "The weather report says this storm is getting worse overnight," she warned. "There's a decent motel 2 exits up if you need to stop." As Samantha stared at the glowing screen, the weight of her decision loomed over her like a dark cloud. The soft hum of the motel's old heater barely broke the silence, amplifying the racing of her heart. Was this transfer truly what she wanted, or just a desperate grasp at validation? Doubt gnawed at her, but then her phone lit up with an unknown caller. Should she answer? With a shaky breath, she hovered over the accept button, her mind racing with possibilities. Had her past finally come knocking at her door? In that dimly lit motel room, Samantha Wilson felt like a ghost in her own life. She had always been brave, her resilience shining through the cracks of an overlooked existence. Her family had showered love on her sister Chloe, while Samantha picked up the pieces left behind. It was never enough, a constant reminder that she was always just okay, never great. The ache for recognition weighed heavy in her chest, a longing for familial acknowledgement that felt so distant. That Christmas morning, with tears streaming down her cheeks in a diner booth, a stranger's kindness interrupted the storm inside her. An older waitress named Gloria had shared her own story of familial dysfunction, reminding Samantha that blood didn't define family. "Love and respect make you family," Gloria had said, and in that moment, Samantha realized she was ready to redefine her own. Back in her car, she checked the forecast. Horrendous conditions ahead. A call to her sister Samantha brought a glimmer of safety, a promise of warmth waiting for her. Following Gloria's advice, Samantha found a motel for the night. Alone with her thoughts, for once she allowed herself to ponder what lay ahead. With her laptop open, she drafted an email to her supervisor, laying the groundwork for her new life. It felt surreal. The quiet outside echoed her plans. She had mapped out steps for a fresh start. Transfer paperwork, apartment viewings, it all began to take shape. Yes, she would leave behind the life that had stifled her spirit for too long. Each click of the keyboard was a glimpse into her future, a future that felt more like a vibrant canvas than a dreary sketch. By the time morning arrived, the sky was clear, a stunning contrast to the frigid reality. Nervously, she dialed her supervisor's number, feeling the holiday's lingering glow still wrapping around them. "Samantha, everything okay?" The concern washed over her, but she was no longer the timid girl struggling for a thread of recognition. "I'd like to request that transfer to Seattle," she stated firmly. And just as the tension rose, as possibilities unfurled, what awaited her on the other end of the line? Would she seize this chance to redefine herself, or would old doubts pull her back into the shadows she so desperately wanted to escape? To my relief, she was understanding and supportive. "The Seattle office has been asking for someone with your skills. I can make this happen by January 15th. Will that work?" One administrative hurdle cleared. As I prepared to continue my journey, my car made an ominous clicking sound when I turned the key. After 3 attempts, it reluctantly started, but a warning light glowed on the dashboard. 10 mi down the highway, the engine began making a concerning noise. I took the next exit into a small town called Maplewood and found an auto shop open despite the holiday week. The mechanic, a middle-aged man named Marcus, with grease-stained hands and kind eyes, examined my car while I waited anxiously in the small office. "Alternator's going," he announced after 20 minutes. "I can fix it, but I will need to order the part. 2 days, maybe 3 with the holiday." I must have looked stricken because he quickly added, "There is a decent hotel in town walking distance from here, and I will give you a fair price on the repair. Promise, another delay, another unexpected expense, but also I realized another opportunity to practice my new resolution. facing problems directly rather than suffering in silence. "Thank you," I told Marcus. "I appreciate your honesty." While waiting for my car, I explored Maplewood, a charming town of Victorian buildings and small businesses decorated for the holidays. In a coffee shop, I opened my laptop and began the process of setting boundaries with my family. I blocked their numbers on my phone, set up email filters to send their messages to a separate folder. I could check when emotionally prepared and removed them from my social media. Each action was both painful and liberating, like lancing a wound to allow healing to begin. On December 29th, with my car repaired and the roads clear, I finally completed my journey to Seattle. Samantha met me at the door of her apartment building with a hug so fierce it nearly knocked me over. The paperwork came through, and it felt surreal. As I shared the news with Samantha over takeout Thai, her eyes lit up. "It's time to celebrate new beginnings," she exclaimed, pouring the remaining wine into our glasses. I took a deep breath, excitement swirling in my chest. My first week at the Seattle office exceeded every expectation. Colleagues greeted me with genuine smiles, and the creative director was more than impressed with my portfolio. For the first time in ages, I felt valued, not compared to anyone else, just me. "We have a major pitch for Westside Development next month," the director said, leaning forward. "I'd love for you to lead the sustainable elements. Your work on the Portland Eco Office project is exactly what we need." Recognition, opportunity, trust. Those simple joys felt revolutionary after years of being overlooked. With my job secure, I turned my focus to finding my own place, my sanctuary. Samantha had been a rock, but I craved independence in my new city. After scouting several apartments, I fell in love with a one-bedroom in Capitol Hill, sun-drenched and just a short walk to work, ideal for my architectural sketches. "This is so you," Samantha said, excitement bubbling as we arranged furniture together that weekend. "I can already see your vibe here." For once, it felt like I was claiming my space, not just playing a supporting role in Chloe's shadow. But then, 3 weeks after I moved, disaster struck. My family discovered my new address through a careless social media tag from a colleague at a Seattle networking event. Suddenly, my phone buzzed incessantly, the screen lighting up with texts and voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize. They'd figured out how to bypass my blocks. "Samantha, this has gone on long enough," my father's message began, his tone sharp. "Your mother is beside herself with worry." Tension coiled in my gut. Would this be the moment all my hard-won independence crumbled? How could everything I'd fought for hang in the balance of family drama? As my heart raced, the weight of unspoken words hung heavy in the air. What did my mother really want to discuss? The anxiety surged. Was everything slipping away just as it started to unfold? This silent treatment? It's not just petty, it's downright cruel. My mom shifted gears, now fixating on health concerns. "My blood pressure is through the roof," she wrote. "Is that what you want? To make me sick with worry?" Classic Chloe chimed in as if her own struggles could eclipse everything. "My car's making this weird noise, and Dad can't afford to take it to the dealer because he's stressed about you," she complained. "Thanks for that, sis." Each text felt like a rope tugging me back into our chaotic family dynamic. The responsible daughter, the one who should feel guilty for wanting more, who should ignore her own needs to keep the peace. I typed dozens of responses, but none hit send. Instead, I gathered those emails, took a deep breath, and brought them to my first therapy session. Dr. Keller sat across from me, a beacon of understanding with her silver-streaked hair. "What do you notice about these messages?" she asked, her voice gentle but probing. "They're all about how my absence affects them," I replied, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. None of them acknowledge why I left. Dr. Keller nodded, her gaze steady. "That pattern seems familiar to you, doesn't it?" "It's been my entire life," I admitted, the weight of those words striking deep. Weeks rolled by, and therapy turned into my lifeline, a place to establish boundaries and confront years of emotional neglect. Dr. Keller guided me like a lighthouse through turbulent waters, reminding me, "You cannot make people give what they do not have or recognize what they cannot see." Her words echoed in my mind. Your responsibility is to honor your own truth. Don't twist yourself into shapes just to fit someone else's comfort. February brought the promise of new beginnings. Beyond Samantha, I connected with a vibrant architectural society that met monthly, diving deep into sustainable design. A cozy bookstore near my apartment turned into my favorite sanctuary for book club nights. And Sunday afternoons. They became my pottery class, a long-held desire finally coming to life. There was something so freeing about molding clay with my hands, like carving out my own identity amidst all the family noise. But then I found myself in Dr. Keller's office, the scent of lavender wrapping around me like a warm hug. The weight of my family's expectations pressed heavily in the air as I stared at the printed emails. Each one was a sharp reminder of my perceived failures, until a hidden message flickered through. A subtle tone beneath my mother's pleading concern, a note that whispered something deeper. What if these emails weren't just calls for reconciliation? What if they hinted at their own struggles, hidden battles they'd never shared? A light of realization dawned on me. Perhaps the real burden had always been theirs, not mine. Slowly, I began building a community of people who saw me, who valued my contributions, who did not measure me against an idealized sister or impossible standard. My career flourished in this new environment. The West Side development pitch succeeded largely due to my sustainable design elements earning me recognition from senior management and a bonus that I used to buy real furniture instead of the second-hand pieces that had followed me from Portland. "We are putting you forward for the Emerson Green Design Award," my director announced in March. "Your innovation on the wildlife corridor integration was exactly what the committee looks for." Professional validation felt foreign but wonderful, like wearing a beautiful coat that I kept checking to make sure truly belonged to me. As my confidence grew professionally, so did my ability to maintain boundaries personally. I began responding selectively to family communications, keeping messages brief and factual without being drawn into emotional manipulation. "I am safe and well," I wrote in response to my mother's increasingly frantic emails. "I need space to process our relationship. I will reach out when I am ready for more communication." This measured response triggered an escalation. Relatives I barely spoke to began messaging me about breaking your poor mother's heart. My father's emails became stern lectures about family obligation and gratitude. Chloe vacillated between angry accusations and tearful pleas depending on her mood. Then came the nuclear option. My Aunt Linda shared that my mother had been hospitalized with chest pains, strongly implying it was my fault for causing her stress. The old Samantha would have immediately abandoned her boundaries and rushed apartment, accepting blame and responsibility. The new Samantha called the hospital, directly confirmed my mother had been treated for indigestion and released the same day, then resumed her life without guilt. In April, just as I was finding my rhythm in Seattle, my father appeared unannounced at my office building. I spotted him in the lobby as I returned from lunch, looking older and more haggarded than I remembered, clutching a manila envelope and scanning faces as people entered. My initial instinct was to hide to avoid the confrontation. Instead, I approached him directly. "Dad," I said simply, "how did you find my workplace?" He turned momentarily startled, then composed himself. "Your cousin works in HR." She looked up the company transfer records, a privacy violation I would address later. "Why are you here?" "We need to talk," he said properly, not through text messages and emails. I nodded toward a coffee shop across the street. 20 minutes, that is all I can give you during my workday." The cafe was busy enough to ensure our conversation would remain civil. We sat at a corner table, an untouched Americano before him, a green tea steaming between my hands. "Your mother and I do not understand why you have done this," he began without preamble. "Running away over a Christmas gift seems extreme, even for you, even for you." The implied criticism was so familiar, I almost smiled. Some things never changed. "It was not about the gift," I said quietly. "The gift was merely the final example of a lifelong pattern." "What pattern?" His genuine confusion was perhaps the most painful part. "Chloe receives a $35,000 car. I receive a piggy bank and $1. Can you truly not see the disparity?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Chloe needed a car. You have your Honda. A car I bought myself. Just like I paid for my education, my apartment, my entire life, while you and Mom gave Chloe everything. That is not fair, Samantha. We raised you, put food on the table, kept a roof over your head. You did the legal minimum for me while giving Chloe every advantage. College tuition, rent support, European trips, now a luxury car. You were always the responsible one," he countered. "You never needed the help." "I needed the recognition," I said, my voice trembling. "I need to know I matter, just like she does, that my efforts are seen, that I'm loved equally, not just shoved into the responsible child role." While Chloe got to bask in being treasured, my father stared into his coffee, lost in thought. After a long pause, he finally lifted his gaze, and I could see it, the mix of defensiveness and dawning realization. "We never meant to make you feel less important," he said. "Your mother and I are proud of you. You've always been so capable, so independent." "Independence forced upon a child is not a gift, Dad. It's abandonment." His silence stretched, filling the air with tension. I felt the weight of my truth hang there, heavy and difficult. Finally, I glanced at my watch and stood up. "I have to get back to work. I have a client meeting." "Will you come apartment?" he asked, the hurt evident in his voice. "Your mother misses you." "This is my apartment now," I replied. "I'm building a life here, a good one, and you're not part of it." The sting in his eyes pierced through me. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "That depends on whether you and Mom can respect who I actually am, instead of who you need me to be for Chloe's sake." With trembling hands but a clear conscience, I walked away. For the first time in my life, I'd spoken my truth without diminishing it for someone else's comfort. That night, I added another $1 to the ceramic savings jar on my windowsill. Each dollar symbolized a week of maintaining my boundaries, making it $13 now. It wasn't about money, it was about personal strength, the most valuable currency I had ever possessed. May brought an unexpected challenge, an invitation to my cousin Jessica's wedding in June. The cream envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days, its embossed floral design taunting me as I contemplated my response. Jessica and I had once been so close as kids. Now? We had grown apart, and this wedding felt like navigating a minefield of emotions. The smell of fresh-baked bread wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the coldness that usually engulfed family gatherings. Samantha recalls her grandmother's kitchen, where laughter danced like sunlight on the walls. Yet every warmth was laced with subtle tension. She remembers the glares and whispers, how her heart quickened as unspoken judgments clouded the air, making every bite of that bread feel like a betrayal. It was here, amidst the clatter of dishes and the faint echo of love mingling with disappointment, that the seeds of her resilience were planted. The desire for acknowledgement ignited in her chest. "Why can't they see me?" she often wondered. As the responsible child, Samantha felt overlooked, her worth measured against her sister's achievements. While Chloe basked in the glow of family praise, Samantha was left in the shadows, her heart heavy with the weight of unrecognized efforts. After a long pause, her father finally lifted his gaze. "We never meant to make you feel less important," he said, his voice a mix of defensiveness and dawning realization. "Your mother and I are proud of you. You've always been so capable, so independent." Independence forced upon a child is not a gift, Dad. It's abandonment." The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Samantha felt the weight of her truth hang there, heavy and difficult. "I have to get back to work," she said, glancing at her watch. "I have a client meeting." "Will you come apartment?" he asked, hurt evident in his voice. "Your mother misses you." "This is my apartment now," she replied, her voice steady. "I'm building a life here. A good one. And you're not part of it." The sting in his eyes pierced through her, but she stood firm. "That depends on whether you and Mom can respect who I actually am, instead of who you need me to be for Chloe's sake." With trembling hands but a clear conscience, she walked away. For the first time, she'd spoken her truth without diminishing it for someone else's comfort. That night, she added another $1 to the ceramic savings jar on her windowsill. Each dollar symbolized a week of maintaining her boundaries, making it $13 now. It wasn't about money. It was about personal strength, the most valuable currency she had ever possessed. May brought an unexpected challenge, an invitation to her cousin Jessica's wedding in June. The cream envelope sat on her kitchen counter for 3 days, its embossed floral design taunting her as she contemplated her response. Jessica had once been so close. Now? They had grown apart, and this wedding felt like navigating a minefield of emotions. She had sent a kind message after Samantha's departure, one of the few relatives who hadn't pressured her to return or dismissed her feelings. Declining felt wrong, yet attending meant facing her entire family on their territory. "You do not have to decide right now," Dr. Keller said during their session that week. "Consider what boundaries would make attendance possible for you." After a week of contemplation, Samantha made her decision. She RSVP'd yes to the wedding, but booked a hotel room instead of staying with family. She requested a +1 and invited Samantha as her support person. They scheduled their arrival for the day of the wedding and their departure for the following morning, minimizing potential family entanglements. Control over these details gave Samantha the confidence to face what was coming. This would be a brief, structured re-entry into her family orbit with a clear escape route. Nothing like the unbalanced dynamic she had endured for decades. The weeks before the wedding passed quickly, filled with work on a new sustainable housing development and weekends exploring Seattle with new friends. Her life had developed rhythms and relationships that nourished rather than depleted her. Each day reinforced her decision to leave and build something healthier. June 17th arrived sunny and mild. Samantha drove to Portland, arriving at their hotel with just enough time to change before the four-Eli ceremony. "Remember," Samantha said as they prepared to leave for the venue, "you can leave any situation that becomes uncomfortable. I will follow your lead." The ceremony took place in a garden overlooking the Willamette River. Samantha spotted her family immediately, her parents sitting rigidly in the third row. Chloe was beside them, looking subdued in a blue dress, significantly less flashy than her usual style. Samantha guided Samantha to seats on the opposite side, nodding politely to relatives but avoiding direct contact. As the ceremony began, Samantha felt a mix of anxiety and determination. Would this be the moment she finally found her place? Or would the shadows of her past pull her back into the darkness? Jessica looked stunning, a radiant bride standing under the warm glow of twinkling lights. As she exchanged vows, I felt a sharp tug of something between envy and longing. Not for her marriage, but for the pure joy she radiated, a joy that felt foreign to me. It was like watching a movie where everyone else is laughing while you're stuck in the drama of your own life, weighed down by family baggage. The reception buzzed with laughter in a chic, renovated warehouse. Our assigned table thankfully buzzed with Jessica's college friends, not my family, and as we shared stories over dinner, my hope grew. Maybe, just maybe, I could slide through this day without having to face my past. But that flicker of hope dimmed when my mother appeared beside our table, her smile more of a rehearsed act than genuine warmth. "Samantha," she called, her voice a touch too bright, "could I speak with you for a moment?" Samantha's hand tightened around mine under the table, a silent anchor. I took a breath and nodded, following my mother to a quiet corner near the bar. "You look well," she started, eyes flicking over my face as if scanning for signs of distress. It was an old, familiar routine, trying to validate her version of our fractured relationship. "Cattle must agree with you." "It does," I replied, trying to keep it light. "Congratulations to Jessica. The wedding is lovely." But my mother pressed on, her voice slipping into a tense cadence. "We've missed you. Your father hasn't been the same since you left." She skirted around the real issues, avoiding any mention of that Christmas, the catalyst for my departure. "How have you been, Mom?" I asked, knowing the answer before she even spoke. "How do you think?" she shot back, a flash of guilt surfacing. "Holidays have been terrible. Chloe is struggling too." I took a deep breath, centering myself with the boundary work I'd practiced for months. I left a note explaining I needed space. "I'm safe. I've been clear about my needs." "But why?" she asked, frustration bubbling over. "What did we do that was so terrible you had to move to another city?" Her words hung in the air like heavy rain threatening to downpour. The scent of impending storm mixed with the floral decorations around us, but I felt the weight of all those years of silence pressing down. Could I finally find my voice? Or was I about to drown in the familiar tides of disappointment once more? The question was so genuine, her bewilderment so complete that I momentarily doubted my own experience. Had I imagined the years of differential treatment? Had I overreacted to the piggy bank incident? Number that self-doubt was the old pattern reasserting itself. "Mom," I said carefully, "we should not have this conversation here at Jessica's wedding. Then, when you will just disappear again tomorrow." I considered my options. Perhaps facing this directly was the only way forward. "Tomorrow morning," I decided. "Breakfast at my hotel, 9 a.m. You, Dad, and me. We can talk then." She nodded, relief visible in her shoulders. "We will be there." I returned to Samantha, who raised an eyebrow in question. "Family breakfast tomorrow," I explained. "The reckoning has been scheduled." Later that evening, as the reception wound down, Chloe approached me near the coat check. She looked different, thinner, less confident, her designer clothes replaced by something more modest. "Hey," she said awkwardly, "your hair looks nice, shorter." "Thanks," I replied, unsure how to navigate this interaction. "How have you been?" She shrugged, looking down at her shoes. No longer expensive heels, but practical flats. "The car got repossessed. Dad lost his job in February. Things are kind of a mess." The news surprised me, but also explained my father's haggarded appearance. "I am sorry to hear that." "Yeah, well," she twisted her fingers together nervously. "I got a real job finally. Receptionist at a dentist office. Not glamorous, but it pays regularly." "That is good," I said, genuinely pleased for her. "Stability is underrated." She glanced up, meeting my eyes directly. "I did not understand before why you left. I thought you were just jealous of the car." "It was never about the car, Chloe." "I know that now." She hesitated, then added quietly, "I never realized how much they did for me until they could not anymore. Or how little they did for you. I'm sorry I was part of that." Her acknowledgement, however, belated, loosened something tight in my chest. "Thank you for saying that." We parted with an awkward half-hug, not quite reconciled, but perhaps on the path toward understanding. Back at the hotel, I prepared mentally for the morning's confrontation, listing key points I wanted to express without being derailed by emotion or manipulation. "You have done the work," Samantha reminded me before retreating to her adjoining room. "You are not the same person who left at Christmas." My parents arrived precisely at 9, each dressed formally as if for church rather than a difficult conversation. We sat at a corner table in the hotel restaurant, the remains of my continental breakfast pushed aside to make room for the emotional feast about to be served. "Thank you for coming." I began taking control of the narrative immediately. I think it is important we discuss what happened at Christmas and the years leading up to it." My father cleared his throat. "Samantha, first I want to say that I lost my position at the firm. The economic downturn hit us hard. Your mother has taken a part-time job to help with expenses." "I am truly sorry about your job, Dad," I said sincerely. "That must be difficult." "We had to sell the Tesla," my mother added. "Chloe was very upset, but we had no choice." I nodded, waiting for them to connect these developments to our larger conversation. When they did not, I realized I would need to guide them. I left at Christmas because the disparity between Chloe's gift and mine symbolized a lifetime of unequal treatment. I stated plainly, the car versus piggy bank was simply the final evidence that I would never be valued equally in our family. "That is ridiculous," my father began. But my mother placed a restraining hand on his arm. "I never thought of it that way," she said slowly. "The piggy bank was just a joke, really. Something cute. Would you have given Chloe a piggy bank and $1 while giving me a $35,000 car?" I asked. The question hung in the air, heavy and unanswerable. We all knew the truth. "We never meant to make you feel less loved," my mother finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You were always so capable, so independent. Chloe needed more guidance, more support." "I was independent because I had to be," I replied, my voice steady but my heart raced. "No one was going to do things for me the way you both did for Chloe. I learned that lesson early on." My father shifted uncomfortably, finally speaking up. "Perhaps we took your responsibility for granted. You never complained." "I complained constantly," I corrected him, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "You just never listened. Or you dismissed my feelings as jealousy or pettiness." "We were doing our best," my mother said, tears welling in her eyes. "I know that," I acknowledged, feeling the weight of the moment. "I don't expect perfection, but I do expect awareness and a willingness to acknowledge when patterns are harmful." For nearly 2 hours, we delved into painful memories and patterns that had defined our family dynamic. My parents oscillated between defensiveness and genuine remorse. They hadn't come prepared to accept full responsibility, but they didn't completely deny my experience either. "What happens now?" my father asked as we prepared to leave. "Will you come back to Portland?" "No," I said firmly. "My life is in Seattle now. A good life that I've built for myself." "Will we see you again?" My mother's voice wavered, a hint of desperation creeping in. "Yes," I decided in that moment. "But on different terms. I cannot and will not return to the old dynamic. If you want a relationship with me, it must be one of mutual respect and equal standing." They nodded, neither fully understanding nor completely rejecting the new boundaries I had established. "Perhaps you could visit Seattle sometime," I offered, a small opening, carefully controlled. "See my apartment, meet some of my friends." It was the beginning of a new kind of relationship, if they were willing to build it. Just as the conversation deepened, my heart raced, the weight of unspoken truths pressing against my chest. The room felt smaller, the air thick with tension. Just as my mother reached for understanding, my phone buzzed, revealing a message from Chloe. "I know what you did." The words hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the secrets festering beneath our family's surface. My world tilted. The fight for recognition morphed into a battle for trust. I realized that Chloe's perception of my independence might be rooted in envy, not admiration. Could I navigate this new reality? Would my family ever truly see me? The answers felt just out of reach, but I was ready to find out. We parted with quick hugs, more of a practical acknowledgement than an emotional farewell. As Samantha and I drove north toward Seattle that afternoon, I felt a rush of freedom I hadn't felt in months. Not because everything was resolved, it wasn't, and maybe it never would be, but because I had finally spoken my truth, loud and clear. "Proud of you," Samantha said, the Portland skyline disappearing in the rearview mirror like a lost chapter of my life. 1 year after my Christmas departure, everything had changed. My Seattle apartment felt like apartment, filled with art from local markets and furniture chosen with purpose, not just convenience. My career had taken off, with the Emerson Award proudly displayed on my desk and a promotion to design team leader. But the real victory? I had formed connections that lifted me up rather than dragged me down, friends who celebrated my wins without jealousy, colleagues who respected my input, and even a budding romance with Marcus, an environmental engineer I met at work. That Christmas, I hosted a dinner for my chosen family, Samantha and her boyfriend, colleagues from the firm, my pottery-teaching neighbor, and Gloria from the diner, who had turned into a surprising mentor. My relationship with my biological family remained complicated but evolving. My parents came to visit once, awkwardly respecting my new boundaries but genuinely trying. Chloe and I exchanged texts, cautiously rebuilding our bond outside of our parents' shadows. On my mantel, the ceramic savings jar sat prominently, now brimming with gift cards. Each card was more than just money. It symbolized a week of choosing myself instead of compromising. It represented my journey to recognize my own worth without seeking others' approval. As I drove further away from the past, a tense silence settled between Samantha and me. The urban landscape blurred into the rearview mirror, accompanied by the hollow echo of unspoken fears. What if all of this was just a facade? What if no one in this new life truly saw me beyond the awards and promises of success? A sudden jolt of anxiety twisted my stomach. Could I finally gain the recognition I desperately sought, or were my dreams just another illusion waiting to crumble? The question hung in the air like a thick fog, urging me to confront the ghosts of my past. That night, after my guests had gone and I sat alone, watching the Seattle skyline twinkle through light rain, I added the 50-second dollar to the bank. 1 full year of self-respect. The piggy bank that was intended as a dismissal had become my most meaningful possession. A reminder that sometimes you must leave what is familiar to find what is healthy, that painful endings can lead to better beginnings, and that your indicted value is inherent, not determined by others' ability to recognize it. As I prepare to begin my second year in Seattle, I wonder about your stories of finding self-worth. Have you ever had to leave something behind to discover your true value? What symbols remind you of your strength and resilience? Share your experiences in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that their worth is not determined by others. Thank you for being part of my journey. And remember, sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to begin again.